It's December 2007, and today I'm interviewing Bert Wall, who was a member of the 2nd 4th Machine Gun Battalion during World War II, was captured in Singapore, subsequently went to work on the Burma end of the Thailand Railway as a member of A Force. After the completion of the railway, he was a member of the POW, who was being transported to Japan on the Rakuyo Maru when it was torpedoed. He was picked up by the Japanese and still ended up as a prisoner of war in Japan, and now we'll hear Bert's story in his own words. Bert, thank you for agreeing to the interview, and I'm sorry for the little glitches to start with there, but I wonder if you tell us a little bit about where you went for primary school, high school, and what you were doing immediately before you enlisted in the army.
Well, before I was born, pardon me, I was born in Dongalocking in a farmhouse on the 13th of October 1922, and lived there, and at the age of 5, on my birthday, I had to start school at Dongalocking School, as there had to be 9 children in the school, or they would not send the school teacher back after the Christmas holidays. So at that school, I had the nickname of Grub. We were brought around by a kid by the name of Vernon Riseborough. They were having a game of Red Rover all over. They made me he, and I had to catch one of these kids, and they were on about a 2-acre paddock. So seeing that I couldn't catch these kids, Vern called me Grub. Now this name Grub remained my name at school, and school only, and neighbouring school, until I left the wheat belt. I left the wheat belt of Dumbayung district and went down, I beg your pardon, I'll go back there. We lost our mother when I was nearly 6 years old. She died of breast cancer. Shortly after that, Dad lost his farm, so therefore he had to go work on the roads. We lived on an uncle's property. My brother and myself lived in a hut. Brother Cliff lived in a hut, and we used to just go up to the house, which was a tin shack which the uncle owned. So there were 6 of us, and Uncle's 4 children used to live on this property. He was broke, so at the age of 9, I used to have to stay home, do the harvesting, feed the horses, do the seeding, and go back to school in between times. And at the age of 12, Dad got to do some sheep farming in a dairy farm down at Curragh. So us 6 kids all went to Curragh, and Dad suggested that we have to do something about our education. Chap looked at my brother, who was 13, said he could read and write, can't he? Looked at me, he said he could read and write, can't he? The answer was yes. I said, well, that's it. So that was the end of school days. Then we worked there for a while. I had a bit of an argument over some spilt milk and decided it was time to move on. So I walked 8 miles into Curragh. I was at the blacksmith shop having a drink of water, and a bloke chap came in. He says, I'm looking for a man. I said, I'm looking for a job. He said, can you drive a team? I said, yeah, I can drive a team. He said, can you use jelly night? I said, yeah, I can use jelly night. Just a new jelly night. He says, I need some trees. I said, that's okay. He said, what age do you want? I said, what are you offering? He said, I'll give you £1 a week in your tucker. I said, I've never had any money, so £1 a week in my tucker's good. He didn't tell me I had to milk 12 cows night and morning, before daylight and after dark every night. I was there for 5 months. He came home in a bad mood one day and I asked him what was his problem. He said, I found out your age to do. I said, what's that got to do with it? He said, you've turned 13 since you've been with me. I said, well, I've done what you employed before. He said, you should be on 7 and 6 a week. He said, you should be still at school. He said, I said, I've done what you told me to. He said, I'll give you 15 shillings a week and you keep. I said, take a week's notice. So I got him to take me into Kura. I asked the storekeeper's daughter, I said, do you know whether anybody wants a man? He said, she said yes. She's Mr. Harry Petroni, out on the Goodwood Road towards Coburn. He wants a man. So I said, how do I get there? He said, oh, a chap who picks up the cream in a big green truck. He lives on a house on Harry's property. So I waved him down. He says, what do you want? I said, I believe Harry Pat wants a man. He says, yeah, he does. I said, well, could you give me a lift there? He said, yeah. So we finished the cream round, unloaded the cream at Boyle factory. And he stopped at where he was living. I said, where's Harry Pat? He said, you follow that line. So I gets out with a battered old case. Just so I start down the lane, a chap comes along in an old ute. He said, where are you going? I said, I believe Harry Pat wants a man. He said, yeah, he does. So he said, I'm going there now. He said, I'm renting some potato country off him. So hops in his sack. He gets down there, opens a gate outside the shed. There's a chap standing outside the shed. This chap in the ute yells out. He turned out to be named Charlie Fragomini. He yelled out, got your man here, Harry? Oh, good, he said. Put your gear over there in the hut. The 2 shotguns on the wall. Be careful of one. One's got a hair trigger. He said, you come into this packing shed and meet the mob. So I go to the packing shed. What he was after, Harry was after was somebody to milk his cows while in Tringle, but who was doing it was relieved to get other jobs. So I had to milk there by a milking machine or by hand. 75 cows night and morning, and feed 100 pigs before breakfast and after tea, and work on whatever was going. And but work in the orchard picking fruit in the packing, apple packing season. Then with a break, work in the shed, lifting the cases up and down for the packers, and milk my cows at night. After work, I'd have up a Tilly's lamp, and it's 7 to 6 a hundred for making fruit cases, on top of my £1 a week wages. Then they put a trick on me to ride a horse that hadn't been broken. They found out I could ride. So I finished up breaking in horses. Harry used to let me have 1 or 2 there at a time. I'd break them in, get a pound, 25 shillings a head, they're doing all right. And I had my 14th birthday there. I didn't say anything. And when my 15th birthday came around, I let them know I was 15. And I got the first recognised birthday present I ever had. And actually the only one I ever had. They gave me a shirt, and the kids gave me the studs and the cufflinks to go with it. It was just before I was 15. I'd help do some pigs up to town in the Donnybrook show. So I was explaining to the chap at the time who was governor here, I said, James Mitchell, the breed of these pigs. And come over the microphone, anybody knowing Bert Wall or his whereabouts when he come to the centre of the oval? I goes over the centre of the oval, and I'd be first suit. I'd never had a suit before. Brand new, first time worn. They wanted me to ride the horses in the show, which I did, and took home about 5 prizes for whoever owned the horses. And went home that night, and Harry unloaded the stock that's been in the show, and he said, after you finish your milking and that, want me to take me to the ball where they used to have a ball every night, after show night, and give out the trophies. I said, no, I'm not going there. I said, I'm not going to get tangled up with Mr. Lehman. He lodged a complaint that I'd ridden a couple of junior events and senior events, and he wasn't very happy about it.
Bert, thank you for that background, but could we now go to the point when you enlisted in the army?
Yeah.
What persuaded you to enlist?
Pardon?
What persuaded you? Why did you enlist?
Joining the army, I think, is upmanship, you might say. Everybody's got a little sense of adventure, and I went down, I filled in a form at Donnybrook, and I had been in the militia prior to joining the army.
Now, which unit were you in?
Second, 25th Light Horse at Donnybrook.
Oh, yes.
Unit.
Yeah.
I did the 25th Light Horse, and not because a lot of my other mates were joining, I just decided that I wanted to join the army, and I went in, and to make sure I would get in, you had to be 18, but I put my age up to 20 to make sure of it.
So what was your date of birth?
13th of October 1922.
Ah, I see. So in here on your papers it says 1920. So that was your
That was when I said I was born.
Yes, yeah.
And
anyhow.
So how did you get allocated to the 2nd 4th Machine Gunners?
Because I was a trained machine gunner.
Yes.
And they came down to Perth, went to Northam, and they sent me straight into the reinforcements of the 2nd 4th Machine Gunner.
Ah, so you were one of the party that hadn't
got on at the Aquitania.
Oh, yes, when the others
yeah.
missed out. Yeah.
And they said I went straight from there into C Company, which was where I should have been. The 2nd 4th Machine Gun Company, they had that march from from Northam to Perth.
Yes.
I wasn't in that. I was at a school at the time, otherwise I would have been in that march.
Yes. Was that the march that did Major Saggers lead that?
Or Major Saggers,
yes.
Yeah. And I wasn't in that. And it was intelligence school of all things.
Yes.
So I got through that all right, and I was doing intelligence work in Northam, but it wasn't my kettle of fish. And I asked to be transferred back onto the guns, so they transferred me back to the guns. And then they sent out, there was a full company of us. Then they picked out about 20 of us and put us in an officers' training cut. Amongst us was Bernie O'Sullivan, Vic Menterplay, Ross Ambrose,